Are you there now?
Greetings.
Greetings, Gregory. Okay, so welcome. Yes, I'm in London, in southeast London, Bromley, and today the weather is grey, overcast, and yeah, it was actually warm earlier on. It had sunny, clear skies, but I will say it must be a bit cooler now. Gregory, please tell us where you are and how is the weather where you are?
The weather is same as you have in London, here in Brussels.
Okay, very good. Welcome to the show. So, dear listeners, this is the spiritual discussion program. We normally start at 6 p.m. So, apologies for the late start, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abrushin. And we have a new topic every week. The topic for tonight is.
The Skype is better.
Yes.
Better.
Yes, it's better. Yes, Greg, Leon, we are fine. You're fine. Yeah. So the topic for tonight, listeners, is the beauty of the peoples. The beauty of the peoples or races, actually. And if you're interested in joining us with any comments or questions, the number to contact us, our UK number, it is 079 39.
When it shuts down.
Okay, Leon, what's happening? Everything's okay, Leon. Can you hear me? Okay, I'm going to carry on. So, listeners, just to remind you. Oh, 1 second. I've got something. Okay, looks like it should be okay. So, apologies, listeners, for that interruption. So, I wanted to.
Just give us 3 tips.
The number to contact us, as I said, if you have any questions or comments on the topic tonight, which is the beauty of the peoples or races, our UK number is 079 39 641 958. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. I'm going to begin with what is the Grail message? The Grail message in the light of truth by Abrushin is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized, and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception. Apologies for the interruption. I'm just going to read that again. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the 5 senses. No any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail message, Abrushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole without leaving any gaps. Again and again in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. Okay. I'm getting cold, but I don't want to take a call just as we're just starting the show, and I'm going to give it a few minutes before we'll take calls. So if you're calling, please just hang on there. We just need a few minutes before we'll take calls. So I just want to finish with one more quote from the author of the Grail message, Abdushin. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So dear listeners, I just want to remind you the topic we're discussing tonight is the beauty of the peoples or races. And you can join us in the discussion with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 07939 641 958. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 7939 641 958. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. Gregory, as usual, I like to do look up in the dictionary, the title, the meaning of the words in the title. So the title we've chosen tonight is The Beauty of the Peoples or Races. So the first main word is the beauty. And in the dictionary, I found this. It's a combination of qualities such as shape, color, or form that pleases pleases aesthetically. So I just want to check with you, Gregory, if you think that's if that definition is a good description, or there's further we should add to that. So I'm just going to repeat that again, what the dictionary says about the word beauty. A combination of qualities such as shape, color, or form that pleases aesthetically. Gregory, if you can make some comment on that definition there. You put on top. Yeah, go on.
Like we kept stressing, what the dictionary does is to describe some of those qualities that it has recognized. There could be other qualities which have not been considered. So what it has discussed is sort of in shape, in color, and in form, and how these things combine. It hasn't really pressed that one out. It has not talked about harmony. So it has to some extent defined these things, but as usual, it's not complete.
Thank you for that. And I immediately think of I know this is a different saying. One man's food is another man's poison, and you think, oh, beauty. Everybody will have a different level of what they think is beautiful. It may appeal to somebody, it may not appeal to another person. So, is there yeah, maybe I should use, and this is a difficult way to say it, but is there like a one standard or impression of beauty that is common to all humanity, or is there a variation?
One may discuss would be harmony. That whenever beauty is mentioned, all humanity must agree that it's also tied to harmony.
Right.
So wherever there is no beauty, there will not be harmony. The way beauty then appears, the way beauty is now expressed in color, in shape, in form, that is now dependent on the personality experiencing that particular beauty. So that becomes personal.
Yes. I think, as you said, that word harmony immediately gives a picture. Um, the word harmony, you can feel beauty and sense the word beauty in it already. So that's something very common. And, it's like, also it's a something, Gregory, it's like a, you can't define in a way, it's like a sensing, because everything is because it's not like a mathematical formula, it's something you just sense that this is looking beautiful. And I want to say,
may I also add that you mentioned mathematical formula.
Yes.
Formula is a form.
Right.
And therefore, that to some extent may be included. Shape, like we said, like you defined, comes in.
Yes.
And color comes in. However, it is the experiencing of these that is what is now different to different individuals, because these are different human spirits. And in all naturalness, they themselves must experience these in their own personal nature. One thing that is common to these are the channels of experiencing, which one may refer to as the five senses that one has.
Yes. And the title tonight is The Beauty of the Peoples or Races. So, and you've been talking about individual perception of beauty. So, is there some, when we talk about beauty of the peoples or races, that obviously doesn't sound individual anymore. So, is there within a particular race a perception of beauty common to that race, and then different races have a different perception of the beauty, or is it just manifesting differently in each race?
The so-called races is an envelope. That word race is an envelope to classify or to categorize a peoples that express in their experiencing, express some of this beauty in a particular way. So you have, there is like what one refers to as an envelope in their perception, in their intuitive sensing. They have something which is common. And so in the way they care to express themselves in their environment, and it is this particular envelope of description that one now call a race or a people. Even within a race, you will have subgroups or subcategories. And in quotes, in the black race, there are many different languages. So you'll find that this now is tied to the culture. So there are so many different varieties. But one has to take it calmly and carefully.
Yes, now you've mentioned languages. I'm thinking, in some places, the moment I'm thinking of let's say the Arab world, where they have, especially where there are deserts there, the heat, the words they use to describe the heat, there might be, let's say, 5, 6 words to the level of heat that is there, while in English, obviously we don't have desert here in UK, they would not have such a level of number of words to describe the level of heat. I must say I don't have anything specific in my head right now, but I'm aware that that sort of thing exists. And so basically you could say in different parts of the world, with different races and peoples, in their language also, there'll be certain words which are only in that language and not in another language. How they describe, let's say, even the food. If there's something, let's say, spicy, we would say mild here, or hot. Let's say just 2-3 levels of words to describe the spicy, but it would be many more levels in one particular language, another place. So, what am I saying there? So, Gregory, the races, are they like connected to their environment and to the sort of expression, sort of making use of that environment that they exist in, and so like we have seasons, you can only grow certain things in a particular season. Is there something like that as well applying to races in that the places that they are attached to?
In the discussion of races, one has used the word categories to describe a whole or different human species that have come to experience that you here find on Earth. So, but the human species, when separated in different categories, they complement each other. For in the environment, not only physical environment, also the non-physical environment, they use their senses externally, which is the 5 senses you are talking about, which all of them have. However, you now have deep within them, that means from out of their spirit, which expresses itself in one's intuition, they are able to form works. These works is what one refers to as the culture. The culture which has been brought forth from these races.
Hello.
You also have subcultures. But key to this is the language.
Okay, this is the number I had a missed call from. Okay, don't worry. Okay then. Just a few minutes. Okay, I've got to go now. Sorry, Gregory. Thank you for your answer there. I want to talk also, the different things in which are common also, with the different peoples and races, and you've said sub categories that you've mentioned. So yes, let's say even within one country you have different states or counties, and you can call them even tribes or something, and they have their own foods, languages, and clothes. Sometimes they're different as well, and so, and Gregory, when we talk about in every show, we talk about the laws of nature, you know. So, and everybody needs to develop themselves or follow, in accordance with these laws of nature. So, with animals and flowers and things, you can see how every um species, let's say, develops. With the human race, there's quite a bit of variety as well. And so I want to ask, and the one thing different, Gregory, is we human beings, we have the free will, which animals don't have, and obviously plants don't have. So, um, is there a way we human beings are supposed to work with nature uh, in developing ourselves than maybe the animals and the plants? Is there something special about with our abilities?
First, one must understand that the human being here on earth, in the physical, in flesh and blood, is one of the constituents of nature. That means it's not removed from nature. It's one of the constituents. And therefore, through the abilities granted to it, one of the abilities is that of free will, and also through one's intuition, one or the human spirit or the personality is supposed to interact with nature. Interaction in the sense of following the sense, the rules that has been laid out by nature in order to experience beneficially. So it is the free will which the human spirit or the human personality has. That free will which enables the personality to select or to decide which path it needs to follow. That is an integral part. But even when following that particular path, it has to also swing in such a way that it's able to draw from the powers that abides here in nature and use it to the benefits of all, not only to the benefit of itself.
Thank you for that answer. So I want to now look at what is happening in the world today. It's a global village now with communication is um, easy now, and travel. Although of course with the coronavirus you can't travel at the moment too much, but we do have the sort of immediate connection with people now, and so and you could say even people speak English all over the world. So a lot of cultures have been able to sort of expand beyond their boundaries, and so you could see, let's for example, Gregory, we see people wearing t-shirt and jeans as a very common thing throughout the world. It's almost like a uniform. The world has become very uniform in this way. So is that a good development, or because it looks like people are copying each other rather than even though each people have their own culture, as we mentioned, but they're also copying. So is that how it's like we become closer together somehow?
When observed very carefully, the examples which abide in nature, for instance, flowers, flowers do not have the same form or the same color. There are a variety of colors and a variety of forms. One can then only imagine that if we have flowers all of the same form and all of the same color, one color, then that leads to degeneracy. In that particular case, there is nothing to compare with or to swing with. Harmony is not only of one body. Harmony is only discussed when there are several, which several swing in such a way that they can refresh and support each other. So, such as you have described leads to degeneracy. There is not one language here on earth. There are several, as there are flowers in the field. There is not one piece of music. You yourself should consider it very carefully. Imagine that all one has is only one piece of music in this world. Would that be refreshing? So there needs to be a variety. One should also consider there is not just one human personality in this world. There are many. And each one must strive to give expressions to their personality.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. Dear listeners, I want to remind you, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdushin. And if you're interested in getting a copy of the Grail Message or want some more information, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight, it is the beauty of the peoples or races. And you're welcome to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Gregory, I've now just received a question from a listener, and they're asking, did man originate from the spiritual realm in races? So I think what they're saying is, do races exist in the spiritual realm or in the spiritual realm? So yeah.
To provide an answer to that, it is very clear to say no. The human spirits set out as unconscious spirit gems. It is when they arrive here in the ethereal realm before they now incarnate in the body of flesh and blood, the tendencies which they carry, it is those who wish to experience in different environments. It is that is determinant where they go. just like you have that in the case of music, there are different tones. Only when these tones swing harmoniously do they form sound which are pleasing. So each personality that wishes to incarnate comes down to the earth level through their innate ability. They wish to experience in a hot neighborhood. Then they only have to make use of the bodies available in the hot neighborhood. There are others who wish to experience in not so hot neighborhoods or in much cooler climates. Then what happens? They then gravitate towards that environment. One should not expect those people who experience in the very cold climate to have the same form exactly with those who experience in the very humid and hot climate. Again, one can also understand that in the cold climate, there are about 4 seasons, which many may need to experience. Whereas in the very hot ones, they may be just basically 2 seasons. However, it is the human spirit that decides where they wish to go. All that is happening is that the bodies have already been prepared, so they can now use those bodies to experience.
Thank you for that. Gregory, I just want to go back to what I used the word people wearing the same dresses across the world, and I know you said that people, are meant to, experience different. That they're basically, you're, let's say, one specific group, and that's the activity that you. I don't want to use the word indulgent, but that's what you focus on, you could say. And then, because that's the type of place, like you've talked about the weather being hot in a certain area, part of the world, and that's, you obviously wear clothes according to that environment. And of course, if it's a cold place, you'll definitely not be wearing t-shirt there. So, but what I wanted to talk a little bit further on that is, when especially in today's world with communication and language, becoming so easy, and traveling becomes so easy, wouldn't it be, in, let's say, today's world, to combine having one, you could say, international common sort of uniform way of not communicating, but communicating, let's say, in one language, or in one sense, isn't it a further development? Or should everything be, even let's talk about food, for example. I know I'm mixing things a little bit. Let me focus on food just for that as an example. We'll focus on that so we can talk specifically. Now, for example, we have McDonald's everywhere. Of course, it's American food or burgers or whatever, and everybody has it. And yes, they still have their own local food as well. So I'm just wondering, are we meant to experience all the variety, or should we just stick to our own local variety, local food? So yes, I'm talking in today's time because of what has happened in terms of, advancement in technology.
When a particular human personality is to incarnate, that personality makes use of a body which had been formed due to its own personal volitions. And this body did not come into existence by chance. Here on earth, we have the physical environment. Consider it, that physical environment, to be a very hot climate. Prior to the physical environment, there is also the ethereal environment, the threads which have been woven that help to make it possible for one to incarnate in this physical environment. Therefore, you now have that the physical body, in the physical body, many things have been inherited, which had been prepared over millennia. Therefore, it would be wrong now, all of a sudden, to throw everything away and say, now, I'm not going to follow this, because the radiations of the physical body, the radiations of the ethereal environment, which we do not see with our physical eyes, they are harmonized. So for one to fling such away will not be very helpful. It may be like someone who now rejects that which has been granted to it for maturity and decides to go to the North Pole, and instead of wearing the necessary material to cover itself, it throws them away and decides not to wear anything to cover its any boots. One can then imagine what would happen. For a very short period, it may manage, it may survive, but before long, you will find that it's going to impair their experiencing. So the environment one has incarnated is helpful for its own maturity, even if it starts, it's a beginning for further experiencing. The same thing with the food it eats. For this body had been accustomed to a specific type of food, which it now has taken over from the parents. This type of food which help to nourish the physical body in order to bring benefit to it. If one now say, oh, one is going to change it, and one is going to go to a place like Japan and bring in their raw food, you will find the body will not swing harmoniously. It initially will reject, and it will take a very long time before it gets accustomed to it. So that is what you find that happens. It's the same thing when you take a plant which grows in the tropic and you take it to a different climate which is very cold. That plant will not do very well. And if you take a plant from the cold region and bring it to the temperate region, that plant will not do very well.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. I've got two questions from two listeners now. One is from the original listener earlier on. He's asking, the question he asked earlier was, do the races exist, let's say, in the spiritual realm? And your answer was no. And then as a follow-up, he said, thank you for the explanation. Does this imply that man is being distracted by paying too much attention to the color of his skin? I mean, just to add to that, Gregory, of course, we are hearing all the time in America with the Black Lives Matter, the racial tensions going on. And then when we talk, because of the different races, you could say conflict, having sort of conflict there. And then here we've talked about that, actually the spirit is not a race, or is only like one race, let's say, rather than different races. So is there to somehow um, because of the lack of understanding of that, uh, people are paying too much attention to the color of the races.
When human spirits set out from paradise in order to experience and mature, they set out as unconscious spirit germs. When they come as far as the earthly globe or the world of matter, they need to be able to experience as much in different areas. And in doing that, they need to incarnate in different areas, taking on the bodies which have been prepared for them to experience. So you may have in one incarnation, it might be, in quotes, a black person. In another incarnation, it may come from a different race. And there could be several incarnations in experiencing the qualities of these peoples. For, like has been mentioned, it is one for all and all for one. So there is the need to go to these different neighborhoods, these different environments to experience and to mature. The experiencing is done side by side. These are the qualities which are displayed along the line. It doesn't mean that one is superior to the other. It only means that in a particular incarnation, one decides to experience here, just as you have in the notes of a musical instrument. There are those with higher frequencies, there are those with lower frequencies. However, when they are played in a particular setting, they do harmonize and give pleasant sound. If, however, you try to, destroy the structure of these notes and see if you can have half a note or something or 1/4, you will find what is produced will not be pleasant. The laws of nature, through which everyone have come into existence, these particular laws ensure that only that which is beneficial to enable the human spirit to mature spiritually, only that will be put on its path so that it can grow. Again, it must be understood that each personality set out from the same realm in order to experience here on earth. And therefore, when they have experienced very well and have matured, they go back to the same realm now as matured human spirits who are now able to support many others who have just started their journey on earth. So you might find that having experience in the hot regions, in the cold regions, as a black personality, as a non-black personality, so-called white, Indian, you are able from on high to support those people, not only just one, in quotes, race. Just like you have in paradise flowers, children, they are able to radiate to the different races, which different races can now make use of this radiation for their maturity.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. So you said a lot on that answer. Starting with the journey of the human spirit, as an unconscious spirit being, and then, let's say, traveling through the ethereal world into the material world, and developing here on Earth as different races, and what you're pointing to, Gregory, there are differences. Basically, obviously, there are different type of flowers you've mentioned. So there are different races, which obviously we know that, and they're different. The different races are different in their abilities and qualities or characteristics, not just in the color and let's say the physical differences that we know about, but they have, let's say, other things. You talked about, for example, the musical notes. So I just want to explore that a bit more, actually. So, in sport, we see, let's say, certain, let's say, basketball or in football, or no particular race is totally dominant, like 90% of one race is like in one particular sport, the best is such, but you do see certain things, it's very hard to say because it's always an exception to the rule. As if I were to say, oh yes, the black race is dominant in basketball and American football and football, maybe not so much in football, but there is quite a number there. Over other races like Asian races, you don't hardly see them there. And so I wanted to ask you, these differences in the races, with maybe strength, I know it's a bit physical there as well. So is that the first question I want to put, actually, is there meant to be like an equality between the races, or there should be these differences? And the word equality is very...
Equality is not clear at all.
Yes, I already realized, as soon as I said it, I realized, what do I mean by equality? So let me specify a few things, and maybe you can fill in if I miss something out. So let's talk I'm going to talk a few things on a physical level, like strength. Is there something like that, or intellect? Maybe you can talk about it in all the different sort of, not every category, but as many categories as possible between the races. Are there meant to be some differences like that in strength and in certain things like that, intellect?
When you say in strength, each race consists of individual human personalities, and each one of them is at a different level of maturity. The level of maturity, when this is mentioned, that one tells you the inner strength that personality will possess. So, in different races, you have people with different strengths. It all now depends on how the level that each personality has cultivated that particular strength. So it is not that it is imposed on the human spirit. Each personality cultivates through their innate abilities where they themselves wish to be or where they wish to strive to, and depends on how they open themselves to the streams of power from out of creation. So, saying strength, like one says, it's a bit nebulous. One may say that one race or personality or people may cultivate certain characteristics which another may not have. However, consider the word language. Consider the word music. each people have a language they use for communication. The simplicity of communication tells you the maturity which they have developed. And this applies to all other races. One cannot now start comparing the language spoken by one race to the language spoken by another race. For in their experiencing, they come across different challenges, and therefore they build their language in accordance with the challenges, which challenges have arisen out of nature. And in giving names, they may give these objects they have found on the way different names. So the Greeks, in their experiencing, were able to see some nature beings and call them a different name. The Germans, the old Germans, did the same thing. In the black cultures, they also have different names, but it is the same personality. So the language which is cultivated by a people is only used as an expression to communicate meaning. Not one language is perfect, but the languages are still evolving. So equating one language to another may not be very helpful. It is what they have done with that language in accordance with the laws of nature that counts.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. Dear listeners, you're listening to Blessed Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abrushin. And if you're interested in getting a copy of the Grail Message or want some more information, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is the beauty of the peoples or races. The beauty of the peoples or races. And you can join in the discussion with any questions or comments. The number to contact us, or on our UK number, it is 07939641958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00447939641958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Gregory, I said I had received another question from, this is a second listener now, and they're saying, politicians work on uniting nations into super states through global commerce. Actually, I think that was a comment first. Politicians work on uniting nations into super states. Through global commerce, the original beauty of nations fades away. Is this the work of evil or natural development? So I'll repeat that, Gregory. Politicians work on uniting nations into super states. Through global commerce, the original beauty of the nations fades away. Is this the work of evil or natural development?
When you use that expression, politicians, that must be referring to a personality. Only those personalities who intuitively sense the laws of nature and act accordingly, only those ones can put up structures, which structures will swing unconditionally with the laws of creation and be able to draw powers which will now enhance the upbuilding which is intended here on earth. But where are those politicians? Because they lack that innate sensing of what they should be doing, then they cannot offer to you what they themselves do not have. They can only offer that confusion which abides with them. So when they promise super states, if you were to ask them yourself, they themselves cannot explain it. They have a picture which is so nebulous. That is why they are called politicians. Each individual must make his or her way to the highest through its own innate struggle in understanding first the different constituents of nature, also the processes in nature, such that it will know how to act, such that its activity will be that of upbuilding. At the same time, it will realize that other peoples in other races are also striving to understand these same laws of nature, these processes in nature, such that they themselves can improve themselves spiritually or mature spiritually. In realizing that, they will be in support. They will ensure they do not obstruct the other people's upbuilding, just as they do not wish their own upbuilding to be obstructed. Where are the politicians who understand this? So these are the questions one must ask oneself. Where do the evolution come from? Basically, it is that they are mixed up. When you are confused, you don't know what to do, you can only spread that confusion in your search for power to be able to control other people when you cannot even control yourself. Politics is a different thing altogether. Whether those politics follow the laws of nature through which all came into existence is a question of its own.
Thank you for that, Gregory. And I was going to add to, following on from the question from the listener, that you're talking about politicians. I mean, let's say any leader is trying to make his people happy, but the way he, successful, and the way I would say that they want to achieve it in a material way, meaning that making them earn more money, where they can enjoy life, let's say, through earning more money. And this, when I say earning more money, I'm almost making money the aim of the let's say success, which is so the more money you have, basically, the more you can do, make things, get things for you, what you need, resources that you need, and achieve what you want to achieve. So
before you go on, one quick question.
Yes.
Money, where does it come from? Did it come from heaven, or it is a canonical form that human spirits or personalities here on earth now use for exchange? Do we have money in heaven, in paradise? Do we have money in the ethereal realm? Money, so all specifically currencies, is a product of human calculations here on earth. So you can have people who, in playing the game, design a currency where they do nothing, and yet they are able to take from other people's, all right, the sweats of their labor or the products of what they have done, and offer nothing in return, all because they have, in quotes, money. Money is a product here on earth, which does not really mean that you have money, you will have happiness. If that were the case, then Steve Jobs would have been the happiest man on earth before he passed on. That is not the case. So money itself is a different discussion on how men have put things in place, whether it's beneficial or not.
Thank you for your answer there, Gregory. Now, I've got a listener with a couple more questions, and I want to add to that question myself. Basically, let me put his question in addition to my first question. I want to set a scenario, basically. Gregory, in America, USA, and let's say South Africa, we have, let's say, black and white people living together. Of course, there's one race more in a bigger number than the other. 80% one way and they say 20% in another, or 15%. Well, I'm not quite sure the exact figure between the split, you can say. Anyway, and we are hearing of lots of, let's say, struggles and injustice and so on going on at the moment, as we know. And so now, previously talked about slavery in the previous shows, and then we also talked. What I want to talk about here in this question now is that, let's say, in the history of USA and let's say South Africa, people came, let's say, to colonize, let's say, and then bring in people from outside, something like that. And then they said, okay, but we want to keep these races, they're different races. So they said, well, we want to keep them separate. And as time went on, as you know, those races said, no, we don't. We want to have our freedom. We want to have rights, and we want to have to do what we want. So the segregation that existed was, well, at least on the surface, taken away, and then the people were able to mix. You could say, come together. Let me say, come together. And so, what I want to ask you, Gregory, in such places. Because that's not all over the world. It happens everywhere, but in such places where there is a mix of two sort of races in a significant number, how can that work? Basically, how can the people be in peace and happiness together? Are they meant to be segregated and work separately, or are they meant to mix, or how can they live in peace and happiness and harmony?
Actually, that is a very simple thing. When you have peoples, remove the color. When the color is removed, each personality has come here to mature. Since if that is kept in the back of one's mind, and know that that container is like a boat, and they realize they are in the same boat, then each one should know it is one for all for one. With that, everyone can live in peace with order, because there will be no violence. There will be no, people will not be disgruntled. It is when that principle is not applied that one sense that there is injustice. It doesn't have to be with the race, even within the same race, even with the same people, even within the same hometown, even with the same family. That has always been the problem. And that is why in the teachings of Christ, he made it very clear: love thy neighbor as thyself. Is the so-called white living in the same neighborhood with a black person, are they not neighbors? Don't they breathe in the same air? So these are the questions one must ask oneself. With that, love thy neighbor as thyself, if one is to reflect on it, then one will find that whatever you do for another, strictly speaking, you do it one way or the other to yourself. And therefore, they should support one another. And not say, oh, because you are from a different mother, or you are from a different father, or you are from a different hometown, or from a different tribe, or from a different race. However, one should not forget that these races, so-called, only came together when exploration was being done. How would one feel if freedom is not granted to another to experience? That means you take another personality as a slave, or you steal from another that which he himself or herself has worked for. The 10 Commandments given at the time of Moses made it very clear how things should be. In different cultures, not races as such, in different cultures, these things are already known intuitively. So the idea of races, that I will do this because I'm a different race and things of that nature, it doesn't help. For all have come from the same source in order to experience. Strictly speaking, were you to go to a different place and you find somebody from the same hometown, you feel drawn, you feel close to that personality, you want to support that personality, and that personality will want to support you. So why is it different? When human spirits who should be sensing that they have arisen from the paradise of man as unconscious spirit gems coming here to mature. The problem has always been the same. Many do not listen to their intuition, which intuition should have made it very clear that these fellow human spirits have come from the same source and have come here to experience.
Thank you for that, Gregory. Earlier we talked about this question about the politicians and, what they're trying to, how they're thinking they're developing their countries and so on. And I wanted to sort of go into a bit of history where, let's say Europe, where many countries have had wars with each other for, let's say, hundreds of years, and then we know, let's say in the last 100 years we've had 2 world wars, we're talking on. I'm looking at Europe as an example right now, and so in the end, they thought, okay, how do we prevent it happening again? This world war happening again, and even though Gregory, you've said, that we people are let's say striving, or they want peace and harmony and happiness, but it seems, and yet, and you said, oh, money isn't the way to get there, but it appears that that is the way, let's say, the people go about it, or they think that is the only way they can get their peace and happiness and harmony. And why I'm giving this example here, like European Union, or that's what it's called today. It was a European Economic Area that was formed, as a result of these two world wars, to stop the countries going to war again by sort of joining them economically into a union. I say union, let's call it an area, because it wasn't a union at the beginning, and that way, once the countries are linked to each other through that, then they stop fighting. That's what has happened in Europe, as we know. France, Germany, Italy. These were the original founders of that European Economic Area, and once they became that, they would not fight anymore, and that's what you have seen. So I'm wondering, Gregory, although we say the driving force is supposed to be spiritual and the striving for peace and happiness, but maybe it's only when the material aspect is brought in, which is meaning the economic prosperity, by becoming united over economically, is that like the jigsaw in the puzzle, let's say, the missing piece in the puzzle, let me say, that is required to make the happiness to manifest? Because, as I say, over hundreds and thousands of years, I've gone maybe a bit, I will say thousands of years, it hasn't worked. The countries keep fighting each other, different leaders have come, and it's still happening, and only when it became this economic unit, I'm going to say unity rather than union, then the things actually stopped. The fighting actually stopped, and people could have their happiness. So do we need that in addition?
I must confess that there have been so many things put together that it is difficult to follow. But what the bits I'm able to get from your discussion,
yes,
is that there is a union. The union means there are different parts. There's just one part. And one would like to explain this in the sense of music or musical instruments. That in the union, which each individual, which each part retaining its identity in expressing themselves spiritually or also materially, they are able to bring these resources together to build that which is very strong in the protection of all within the union. Money, like you stressed, is only a very trivial expression of that. Take, for instance, in considering the union, there are some crops which are produced in different parts of the union. They bring these different crops to the table. They also bring their spiritual qualities to the table. It doesn't mean that they are all of the same maturity, but in their activities, they are able to support each other. The support for each other, like he stressed, one for all, and all for one. That is what makes a union, whether that union is of different states or of family or of husband and wife. That must be the key in the support, in the upbuilding, in the further development, so that each part is granted the opportunity devoid of violence, which violence will not allow any meaningful upbuilding. That should be the purpose of a union, which union you might call a state, you might call a nation. These are the purposes. Money is only a conduit, sometimes which is used in the absence of all other things. The same thing you will find that even within that union, there are mineral resources which are distributed within the lands. They again have different strengths. Which strength should be used for the general upbuilding? As long as these things are kept in mind, then there will be no need for war. You ask yourself, imagine a musical band that produce very nice music. If these people war against themselves, what sort of music would they produce? Or imagine a football team in which there's a goalkeeper, there's a defender, there's an attacker. If they fight against themselves, what sort of team will they produce? So with that picture in mind, the idea of a union already tells you there are qualities of the different constituents in this union. These qualities need to be brought together in order to have an upbuilding.
Thank you for that, Gregory. It was reinforcing your earlier points that you made before in a different context. So that, just brought it out. It's like the word union. Now, it's not, of course, we want happiness, harmony, and peace. That's like a common goal. And then there's also the resources, let's say, between the different peoples or countries that can be shared out. And so putting that together, it just all falls into place. So thank you for that. Gregory, what about, we talked about harmony and coming together. So should there be pride, Gregory, about each race and peoples? Because people like to, there's, in quotes, have this nationalism, some pride about their race and about their people. And or should we just remember that we need to always be together, work with the other peoples as well, and so there's no need to celebrate, like your group of people. Just do it as a united people sort of celebration.
Of course, there is need to celebrate. But celebration only comes in when the different parts that make up a union, that make up a tribe, that make up a family, when these different personalities have performed their tasks very well in order to achieve a goal. Very simply, you see the different footballers in a team, when they score a goal, they've achieved a goal, they celebrate. Is there anything wrong with that?
No, and I didn't go so specific about it, but with nationalism, that was the one I was pointing out. There is a pride, like you say, I said celebration, which you can say. Now you've pointed out, if there's something worthy to celebrate, then of course you celebrate. But sometimes people are going on their past glories, and then using that. Let's say there's a problem happening right now, the country is suffering, and in the past it was successful, that country, and then they now want to blame, oh, this group of people are in our country, they weren't there before, we were doing well when they weren't there, now they're here, it's messing up our country. So it's like, you could say, a misuse. They're trying to have a pride on something from the past, but then in this particular situation they want to use it as a way, okay, look, now this thing has happened, we don't want these people here, they have messed up our country. So would you like to say more on that?
Such scenario you painted is only based on weaknesses. To rely on pastime paradise only means one is not making any further efforts or striving for continuous improvement as it was in the past. You want it to remain that way. There is continuous improvement, and therefore one should strive to ensure that he or she is not left out. And to say, oh, in the past we had this, and because these people are around, we do not have ABC, that will not be helpful. However, each personality must ask themselves, what have they themselves contributed to the society in order to improve the overall well-being, spiritual well-being, earthly well-being of the constituents of the society. Only then, when they are sure they have been able to do something to contribute of the resources, which resources are spiritual resources, material resources, or otherwise, only then can they beat their chest they have been able to do something. There are some who point out to the observations they have found in nature and stress that there is a need to make changes, else catastrophe awaits one. That is some contribution. There are some whose contribution is in music. There are some whose contribution, in quotes, is in sports. There are some whose contribution is in agriculture. There are some whose contribution is simple observation, pointing out how things should be. These are all contributions. And that is why the stress is one for all and all for one. For when these contributions are brought into the forum, it helps in the furthering of each individual, rather than going back and say, oh, we were Greeks, we were the first to observe this. But things have moved on. So the human spirit must be on the alert, must be vigilant, must protect itself by being vigilant.
Thank you, Gregory. Dear listeners, I want to remind you, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message, by Abdrusheen. And if you're interested in getting a copy of the Grail Message or want to get more information, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is the beauty of the peoples or races, the beauty of the peoples or races. And you can join in the discussion with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 07939 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Now, Gregory, we've been talking about races and peoples of different colors and so on, and the strengths and the abilities and resources and so on. Now, we do notice certain let's say races or groups of people seem to feel inferior, or it appears to be inferior. I'm going to give an example here that somebody has presented to me, which is where let's say women, they like to look beautiful, we know that, and they care about their appearance especially, and so and also okay, this, I'm just laying out the context of this one. It's not let's say amongst the black or even Asian races, there seems to be concern when they're especially more dark skinned, that they want, within their own people, they think, oh no, it doesn't look so beautiful, we want to have a lighter skin, and then they try to get something to make them whiter or lighter in their skin color, and such. It's sort of like a common perception in the culture somehow that this is somehow more beautiful. And what is I want to say about it, Gregory, is we've been talking about spirit is not a race, or it is just like one race, so it doesn't have different colors and so on. And yet on the earth, yes, of course we have different colors and so on, but somehow there's this inferiority complex, if I want to say, put it in that way, that somehow, being lighter color or whiter somehow is a superiority in that. So my question on that is, Gregory, is that, let's say, an indoctrination or some perception? Where is that coming from? That people are having this idea, that they look more beautiful being in a lighter skin or something like this. Where is it something indoctrination? I think you're on mute, Gregory.
You yourself provided an answer to it, a solution, in which you mentioned inferiority complex. Inferiority complex comes into being when the person who is behaving in such a way realizes it's unable to express itself confidently. Unable to express itself confidently, therefore it wishes to copy from others. If that personality has examined thoroughly that which is granted to it, in the process of self-examination, it will come to appreciate that which has been granted to it and will not wish to copy others who have been doing their work. It happens not only with women or men, it happens in most races. And that is the biggest challenge many a personality have. Some of these complexes, particularly inferiority complex, have arisen out of spiritual indolence. And unless the spirit is willing to examine and exert itself, there is very little one can do. In other cases, there are some who have that pressure, which pressure has arisen out of their blood radiations. These are only hints. For clearer explanation, one is invited to the work In the Light of Truth, the Grail message. There, for anyone who is seeking, they will find all that appertains to spiritual striving. And in personal self-examination, hopefully, if it is done in the right way, such pressures that have arisen out of these complexes will vanish. For they will be filled with confidence and will also partake of the love that made it possible that they themselves should come at this present time to experience. Then such complexes will not oppress them anymore. But first, they themselves must examine this work. There, they will find all answers that they seek.
Thank you for that, Gregory. Now, you know, in the world we have the rich countries and poor countries, and you could say it's not really meant to be race-based, but we find it in a way like this. Let's say Africa is, let's say, the more poorer place in the world, and Europe and the West is somehow more richer. So my question on that, Gregory, is I know there's trade between these nations, and obviously there's unfortunately people with their own interests, or countries with their own interests. So my question is a little bit difficult, I will say, to put forward, but should countries who are more, let's say, well-off offer help to the less well-off, because they are, at the end of the day, each country makes its own success. So and I know there's these things called aid sent out, with conditions to different countries to say, okay, we will give you this money if you employ our people, to develop something. So in a way, I don't want to get too political about it, but I want to put it in a most general way. Should let's say a country who's well off financially, let's say, help a country who's not so well off financially, or should everybody just find their own way forward?
The best a neighbor may do for another neighbor is to show them the path that they need to follow if they themselves wish to be successful or to be of value within the community. The path has to be shown such that those who follow such paths will gain the necessary knowledge and build up. Just as we have right now, in a spiritual sense, the walk in the light of truth grants you access to the path that each personality must follow if they intend to be of value and of help to their neighbors. Granting your neighbors food every day does not solve the problem, for it ensures that the strength, the abilities, the talents which needs to be cultivated by your neighbor is ignored. And therefore, the paths may be shown each personality still need to follow it. For there is no country on earth that has not got individual personalities or has not got things, material resources on earth that could be useful to their neighbor, their nearest neighbor or their furthest neighbor. These things are there. They only need to wake up and make use of it.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. I want to share with the listeners now um, a lecture from part of the lecture from the Grail Message, which is very sort of well connected with the title of the topic tonight. In fact, we chose the topic from this lecture title in the Grail Message. So I would like to read just the first 2 pages of this lecture, which is called "The Beauty of the Peoples." That is in the Grail Message. The earth is now being encompassed by the light. A strong cloak firmly envelops the globe so that darkness cannot escape. Ever stronger becomes the pressure, sharply forcing together all that is evil, so that one cycle after another of all that has happened must come to a close, and the end be connected with the beginning. Spears and arrows of light dart here and there, swords of light flash forth, and Lucifer's minions are being sorely afflicted to their destruction. Holy victory for the light here upon earth. That is God's almighty will. Light shall be everywhere, also among all the errors of mankind, so that they may now recognize truthfulness. The great new time shall be ushered in as a blessing for all the peoples, so that they may feel happy upon the soil to which they belong, and thus come to full blossom in exact accordance with their race, bearing rich fruit, and working only towards the harmonious development of the whole of mankind upon earth. Thus beauty will arise afresh. The entire earth will become a picture of beauty, as though it had issued from the hand of the sublime Creator himself. For all human spirits will then swing in the same sense, their joyful activity ascending in jubilant prayers of thanks to the luminous heights, there to mirror all the harmony of happiness manifesting on earth. But this God-willed beauty cannot come about as long as the leaders try to force upon their people and upon their country foreign habits and customs, foreign clothing and foreign architectural styles, in the illusion that this makes for progress for their people. Imitation is not uplifting. There is no personal achievement in it. Uniformity through copying is wrong. The best measure of this is the sense of beauty which is given to you, so that you may recognize what is right and what is wrong in these matters. Devote yourselves to the original, true sense of beauty, and then you can never err. For this is linked with the primordial laws of creation, and is the expression of a knowledge of perfection which still remains hidden. It is an infallible signpost for every spirit, because Only that which is spiritual in this subsequent creation possesses the ability, at a very definite stage of maturity and in full consciousness, to recognize beauty. But here also you have unfortunately long since extinguished the unbiased intuitive perception through the fall of man, which now you know about, with its disastrous consequences arising from the domination of the intellect, which created caricatures of everything. The form which the intellect substituted for the conception of true beauty is the folly of fashion, to which your vanity only too gladly submitted. This slavery to fashion has completely buried your sense of beauty for noble, graceful forms, which is given to your spirit as a guide and staff in this coarse existence upon earth, thus causing you to lose a strong support through your own guilt. Otherwise, in every circumstance of life and in all places, you would always at once intuitively perceive and know if something is not in order, because wherever your sense of beauty is unable to vibrate joyfully, the harmony, which is a strict condition for creation, does not exist as it should. And where there is no harmony, there is no beauty either. Look at a Chinaman when he wears a top hat, or a Japanese or Turk for that matter. Caricatures of European culture. Look at the Japanese woman who nowadays dresses herself in European clothes, and then see her when she wears the costume of her own country. What a difference. How much she loses when she wears clothes alien to her country. It is indeed a great loss for her. In the advancement of its own culture alone lies progress for each of the peoples. There must naturally be ascent in everything and no standstill. But this upward progress must always take place upon and out of its own soil, not through adopting foreign things. Otherwise it is never progress. The word itself, in its true sense, rejects any imitation. A people can only progress through the upward development of what it already possesses, and not by adoption of something it has borrowed. Taking something over is not progress, for progress shows itself in the improvement of what already exists. This alone should cause some reflection. Nor is that which is borrowed or taken over really one's property, even if one wishes to make it so. It is not something personally achieved, not a result of people's own spirit, of which alone it could and must be proud. I'm going to stop there, dear listeners. That was a reading from the lecture, The Beauty of the Peoples, from the Grail Message. Gregory, we've come to the end of the show now. I just want to ask you if there's anything you'd like to say to the listeners to end the show.
One wishes them well and wish them the strength to examine this work by themselves.
Thank you for that. So yes, dear listeners, as Gregory's mentioned there, do examine the Grail Message for yourself, and you can go and get a copy of the Grail Message from this website, and which is www.grail www.grailmessage.com. I will spell it www.grail, message, MESSAGE.com. Thank you for joining us tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show. The topic we discussed tonight was the beauty of the peoples or races, and hopefully it was enlightening for you. As usual, we'll be back next Tuesday with another new topic. I wish you all well. Have a great week. God bless. Take care, everybody. All the best to you.